We cover a lot of ground on this next clip with Henry Paul of the Outlaws, the Henry Paul Band, and Black Hawk. We talk about all those bands, but specifically Green Grass and High Tides. If you go on Spotify right now, it's not There Goes Another Love Song that's the biggest song for the Outlaws. Green Grass and High Tides has become their signature song. Henry Paul talks about playing the tune. We also talk about Knoxville Girl, one of my favorite songs that he wrote from the debut album from the Outlaws. That and a lot more with Henry Paul on Rock History Music.
You know, I was this morning and last night listening to Green Grass and High Tides on Spotify. And my wife, who's 11 years younger than me, I look like a boot. She looks like she's ready to go and get ID to the liquor store. She's never heard it before, you know, and she stops and she's always a barometer because before I like to do my research really late. So it's fresh in my mind because my notes are right here. If you see me looking over here, she's, what is that? And I told her and she says, that's heavenly. That's just 35 million streams on Spotify. What a way to kick it off.
Right. Well, and it's a very majestic story, written for Brian Jones, written for Janis Joplin, written for Jimi Hendrix. Very majestic lyric. And the musicianship is just, I would have to say, unequaled. Stylistically, it is specifically its own sort of thing. But man, what a thing that was. What a moment that was. And, you know, that story of how that song became what it became is an interesting story in and of itself. You know, I mean, it started out as a 3.5-minute ballad and it wound up being an AOR rock staple. And the lead guitar players in the band were at their best in that moment, and the band that played along with them were in that moment at their best. It's kind of like when you see Liz Taylor, you know, maybe in Butterfield 8, or maybe, you know, one of those movies where she's maybe Giant, you know, where she's at her peak. And we all have that moment. And you lead up to it, you have it, and then you come off of it and you step back and let someone else come and have their moment. But that was our moment, and it was brilliant. It was a brilliant light of creativity and musicianship.
Knoxville Girl, was that about someone specific?
No, Knoxville Girl was a traditional bluegrass ballad. It was a dirgy, kind of dark song about a guy that killed his girlfriend. And I took the song and I wrote new verses to it. And I wrote that intro segment, that really nice down thing where it slams into the bluegrass section. And it was, bluegrass is a great kind of musical trick. It just translates in a happy place on stage in front of people. They love the tempo and they love the musical personality of it. And so Knoxville Girl was me taking a song that had been around for literally 100 years and rewriting it and changing the musical personality of it. And because it was public domain, it became my song. And it was an enormous part to the band's musical personality, and it was a great part of the show. It, you know, underscored the country rock character of the band.
Yeah, I talked just talked to Graham Goebel for I think the 5th time of Little River Band, and you know, we talk about harmonies, and you know, he mentions the people you mentioned when it comes to, because a lot of the people you mentioned are famous for harmonies, but you guys, and in the 90s. With that little country band, that was harmonies would see you guys with Black Hawk. I think you formed something that someone who wouldn't like country music would like country music. I mentioned that on the radio a lot. I'm on radio in Vancouver, and there's just certain songs that even if you don't like the band or the genre, everything you touch has like amazing harmonies.
Well, and And we didn't do it by design. We did it because it was who we were. We had no interest, nor did we write anything about anything country lifestyle driven. That was the kiss of death. We wrote about let them whirl, let your children just be who they're going to be. They're,
Yeah.
we'll take care of things. And we kind of held ourselves to the Fogelberg or the Henley school of lyrical impression. We weren't pickup truck driving, beer drinking,
Dog dying.
Yeah, we just weren't those people. Dan Stevenson was an amazing songwriter, and he and I were in many ways very close because of our life experiences and age. And it was one of the most artistically rewarding experiences I've ever had as a professional recording artist, was working with Van and Dave, who I still work with. Dave was an exceptional talent, and it wasn't crazy. It wasn't that rock and roll, head banging crazy bull hockey. It was, let's make a great record on this great song and put on a great show. I have a wealth of experience as a live musical personality. They did not. They hadn't done really all that much out there. They had a whole lot of success as songwriters and producers. So the relationship was really, really good for all of us. They learned how to become entertainers, and I learned how to make records better.
Shorts, and then we'll be releasing the entire interview. It was a long hour-and-a-half chat with Henry Paul, who was, of course, as you know, a big part of the Outlaws in their early incarnation. Then he left in the 70s, formed the Henry Paul Band, which was successful, and then the country trio Black Hawk, which still tours today. If you want information on Henry, there are links in the description. But man, in this series, does he tell good stories about knowing the Eagles, hanging out with Leonard Skinner, most notably Ronnie Van Zant, their lead singer, working with Clive Davis. There's so much in this series. If you're a Patreon member, you'll get early access to everything on here. It's pretty juicy stuff. And he's writing a book as well. Remember to pick up a Rock History Music t-shirt and hats. You can get your own Rock History Music baseball cap now. Join our Patreon, as I said, get early access to everything. Links in the description, our TikTok. Check out the Facebook group for Rock History Music. Stay in contact with us. We'd love that. All the information's in the description. I'm John Beaudin. More from Henry Paul in the next 2-3 days. This is Rock History Music.